Hello again, fellow science heretics. This is iteration number 9 of Petre's AI project, aka Pipe. My name is Petre, and we continue where we left off last time. Let's add here iteration number 9. So after the general thoughts, create a new iteration. Here is our structure. Last time we started to integrate day 4, but we didn't finish it. So let's see. Iteration 4, I was talking about knowing versus solving, and what I wrote also here is about problem solving. Difficult complex scenarios which AI models can't solve yet require cognitive skills which we are also using during the development of the project. So we will pay attention to those methods and skills of the thinking used in trying to solve this problem. I think I should add this to the part where we integrate stuff. One thing that we should integrate is metacognitive skills used in the development of pipe will become skills of the AI system we create. So we should pay attention to those and make them explicit and add them to the development of the system. Let's see. Do we have them anywhere written here? I think here those are like principles as this one. Principles for AI thinking, metacognitive skills. Also the first principles which I wrote, I wrote sometime later. But it should be something like a first principle, those thinking principles that I wrote here. And I didn't explain what are first principles and how I understand first principles. I will talk about this in the iteration 9. What are first principles? But let's see first to finish the iteration 4. Okay, so there is only this sentence. Experiments should be the engine of discovery. I will add this to the principle. Well, actually, experiments is like an attempt to test a theory, to try things out, and often the experiments are making mistakes. So this is like more general category compared to the principle of making mistakes is making experiments, and sometimes those experiments will fail and we are making mistakes. It's important to try things without knowing for sure what will be the even if we don't know what will be the outcome, we try things. And because we tried things because we can't know the outcome for sure. So in the process of pursuing in the process of pursuing those things, we will possibly come to a new solution which nobody knew before, nobody has tried before, something which we cannot be predicting, but the experiment can discover, doing the experiment can allow us to discover things. So in the process of pursuing a new thing which we don't know how will turn out in the end, we can discover new things. Discovering new things is a really important thing here. That's something I'm really interested in. So I got really triggered here because we have seen in previous episodes how creativity is super limited in AI models. So when I see that experiments can uncover new things, that's really important. I will highlight this. Potentially overcoming the limitation of creativity of LLMs. That's super cool. We should pursue this to overcome the limitation of creativity. So experiments should be the engine of discovery and creativity for difficult problems. Proposing an assumption or a theory and then try to prove it wrong, falsify a theory that you test. Right. Well, here it's also something interesting that you can, when you run an experiment, you can prove something right or wrong, but the way you formulate the experiment and the theory and the assumptions that you are testing, it's somehow for humans, it sometimes is easier if you say the negative of something instead of the positive. To falsify something, like to prove it's wrong, is looking at it from the negative perspective. That's a weird way in which we are thinking, humans are thinking, and sure, negating something has a purpose, but because negation is in some way necessary if you want to do subtraction, maybe, right? Because when you subtract, you have the negative number. It's mathematical important concept, negation, but in our thinking space, when we think about how to solve a problem, we can sometimes come up with more ideas and better ideas and make easier connection if we eliminate possible predictions for a solution. Instead, of looking for the correct solution. Like, when you are solving for example, when you solve a multiple choice test, you can sometimes see that if you have to choose from 4 correct answers, one of them you absolutely know that one is wrong, and then you are free to think which one of the 3 is correct. That's eliminating one thing and thinking about the problem in reverse order, like from the uh, like thinking about the opposite of what you want to achieve and trying to not go there. I think there is a quote by, I don't know whom. I wish I would know where I would die, such that I would avoid that place. Maybe you can point to the correct person. I think ChatGPT will find that person out in the comments. But this is a mental model that humans, for some reason, really think about a lot, like through negation or um, inverting the problem in a way. I think it's also a mental model that is other guys on the internet are saying that you should use this because it's powerful. That's great. So we are done with this to do from day 4, because we integrated about the experiments, and now I have my preferred length for a video is about 15 minutes. So I want to use the rest of the minutes to talk a little bit about what are first principles and what I think about first principles. The first time I heard about first principle thinking is someone that took an interview of Elon Musk, and then I saw some other people talking about it, that it's a powerful way of thinking. The examples that you find on the internet are really poor compared to what I think first principles are and how to find first principles. So I took some notes about this, but I'm not going to search for them now. I will continue talking about this next time, and I will find those notes. I will talk about it from what I remember. There are 2 main things when you think about first principles. One of them is if you having a lot of examples. Let's put here that we are talking about first principles. When you are having a lot of examples, and those examples are contrastive in a way. You can see differences between them. They are not identical examples. If you filter out the differences between the examples, and you are left only with the essence, that is a first principle. there is a really nice picture of that. I will put it on the screen. Let me find it. Um, yeah, that's the one. So it's like, I'm not sure, maybe it's a sketch or something like that of Picasso. And Picasso draw these bulls, and he drew them. Here they are. He drew them in many different ways, uh, and looking at differences between them, he eventually arrived to a really simplified version. This is like the essence of what is a bull. That's the first principle. And how he arrived to this is by maybe looking at two pictures and asking himself, um, what is always the same among these pictures? And maybe he saw every picture, even let's look until here, forget about this because they are very simplified. What is the common about these? And you see they have horns. One, that's one thing that's common everywhere. Another thing is that they have four legs. So obviously horns and four legs will be like the essence of a bull. Another thing is that they have a body. It's also happening in the last picture. Even if it didn't have a tail, maybe a long tail, I see a long tail in each one, but even if he didn't have a long tail, I think people would recognize this is a bull. So, returning to our definition, in a way it is asking the question, this really simplified question, a single word, always. Does this always happen? That's the essence of the essence, the first principle of first principles. That's how you find what is a first principle. And people intuitively, without realizing this, a lot of people try to search for first principles all the time in conversations with others. Someone tells you an idea and you think about ways in which what that idea goes wrong. This is the same thing as asking yourself, does this always happen? If it doesn't always happen, then let's put here, we have two possibilities. If you are asking this question, you see there is an exception. If you find exceptions in how something is explained, an idea, if you find exceptions in an explanation or an idea, that means the idea does not always does not always is not always true. um, in a If you keep in mind always and you get confused, the long version is this always true? So it's not always true means it's not a first principle. But if you maybe you can't find an exception, you can't find a contradiction, you you try to twist the idea, to attack the idea, to maybe take it out of context. You can take it into a context essentially where it becomes false. You can't take it the to the extreme maybe where it goes wrong. Usually taking things to extreme is a way to find when they go wrong. Taking it to extreme still doesn't make it false. Then you have arrived to a first principle, and it doesn't maybe you find, but you see you don't have to take this process of thinking about it to extreme also. You don't need you 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 don't need to find all the ways in which something is false. You need like, even if you find ways in which something is false, that's a better way to say it. Even if you find ways in which something is wrong, in which something is sometimes false, but those never occur in reality and in practical ways, that is like the first idea, one above this, is a first principle in a more general and perfect perfect sense. But you don't need to take things to perfection in reality. In engineering, in building something, you can make mistakes as long as those mistakes don't impact you. For example, maybe when you go when you commute from home to work and you take maybe you take a wrong intersection to the left, but you can correct it later, you still arrive to your work. There is a way to go on a street such that you still arrive to work. This is like an exception from the perfect thing, but it still works. We will, in this project, we will not find first principles that are perfect and absolute. We need just practical first principles, and this is like a really difficult way to think about things. You find ways in which it go wrong, and you have to think if those things in which it goes wrong do impact your project. When does an LLM think so much about something? I don't think it ever does. This is a first principle thinking that I am trying to bring to LLMs to really make them powerful. I think this is enough for today. I will add to do here because I will forget maybe until next time. I did explain what are first principles, but I also so we are adding new thoughts and add to-dos for next ideas, because I want to continue this, but not now because the video is getting too long, to read my notes, because I have many notes about first about first principles and bring them into a next iteration, maybe iteration 10. Right. Awesome. This is becoming more and more interesting. We will integrate those ideas into the project, and if we arrived at first principles, we are getting somewhere. Soon we will start also to become practical and write some code. Until then, see you next time and have a nice day. Bye bye.